Anytime I think you're winning games, I think you kind of get quotes and comments like that. So I'm happy they feel that way, and hopefully we can continue that.
What are the reports on Jordan Westberg after his final rehab game yesterday? Potentially final.
He's going to play today. He's DHing today, and it's going to be day-to-day. Right now, to be honest, we're making sure he feels right with how he feels on the field, not necessarily his hamstring, but just playing baseball. You know, when you miss a month of playing baseball, you know, it's unrealistic to expect everybody to go play 5-6 games like Cowser and, you know, feel incredible and look incredible. So we're just going to go day by day with Jordan, and when he's ready and when we're ready, then you'll see him.
When the starting rotation is pitching as well as they have of late, is there something that, when you look back at, like, you know, what started the string, is there something that was done? Was there an approach change, or is it simply one start can kind of lead to the next one, and it's a momentum thing?
I mean, you can make the storyline whatever you want. I mean, you can go with all the above right there. You know, the guys that probably know that best are probably the guys in the pitching room. You know, as sitting in the manager's seat, you don't know every little detail of every little area. It's more of a bird's eye view of kind of everything. But, you know, my guess is that those guys probably haven't changed a whole lot of what they're doing. They probably turn the dials a little bit here and there, and, you know, maybe momentum goes and maybe confidence goes, maybe a feeling of looseness kind of helps us go. But, you know, and it's probably a lot of little things, to be honest with you. It's probably not, you know, one main thing that, you know, changed everything. But, you know, that'd be a good group to ask.
You obviously didn't work a ton with the pitching staff in your previous role, but as you've gotten to know the pitchers and the pitching coaches and be in those conversations, what have you learned, either individually or as a group, just about this pitching staff?
They're really hardworking. They're really thorough. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of care. They've taken our struggles, the players and the pitching group, they've taken it very personal. You know, it's not something that, you know, they're feeling sorry for themselves by any means. It's not something they feel defeated by. It's just kind of a problem that they feel like they need to solve. And, you know, in the last couple of weeks, it feels like they've solved some of it, no doubt.
You mentioned working in Kittredge yesterday.
Yeah.
Are you still sort of getting a feel for him since, you know, you haven't seen a whole lot of him?
I think we're starting to have a good feel for him, right? And we know this guy's good. We know his track record. That's why, you know, he's a big acquisition for us in the offseason. I think, you know, again, anytime you have a guy come off the IL, you know, and a guy that misses spring training, I think you got to be kind of smart, kind of how you weave him into the games. Today, for example, with Cowser, you know, he misses 2 months, and, you know, it's a plan that he's going to sit today. It's 2 games, and we don't want to, you know, wear him out and cause another issue with him. So we got to be smart with it. And with Kit, we're probably exiting that stage right now. He was going to come up if that got to, I think it was Julio. Or no, who was Julio in the 8th inning, I think is what it was. Yeah, if it got to Julio in the 8th inning, then you would have seen Kit come in and get him had Soto not gotten through Raleigh. So he was coming in a big spot right there. You know, it just so happened that Soto got Raleigh. So, yeah, I mean, I think you got to be smart with these guys, and I think Kit's kind of coming out of that phase here soon.
You said recently how impressed you've been with Dylan Carlson, even going back to spring training. What do you think he's doing at the plate that's kind of been leading to these consistent results? Now he's been able to keep it going.
He's a really good player going back to 2021. I saw him in 20 when he first got to the big leagues, and it was T.O., it was Bader, and it was Carlson. And he fit right in with those two. And those guys, I think, at that time were winning Gold Gloves. They were swinging the bats. You know, he's got a nice track record. He went through a lot of injuries for a couple years, and he kind of gets a shot in Tampa last year and plays okay. He comes in on the deal that he comes in on and goes to Norfolk. And, you know, I think when guys have played in the big leagues 4 or 5 years and they get sent to AAA, there's a lot of soul searching going on, and there's a lot of looking in the mirror, and there's a lot of things you got to kind of find within yourself. So we're probably getting the results of that right now. He's playing great. He's gotten an opportunity. There's confidence, and he's taking advantage of it.
It's never good losing guys like Mullins and, of course, Westburn or Mountcastle. How valuable is it to Kerstad and Mayo to get some quality at-bats there?
Yeah, we've lost a lot of guys, and there's been a lot of opportunity here. You know, this is a young group of players, and you know, we have no choice but to need those guys to step up and get big hits. And they're talented and they're good, and they've done it in the minor leagues. Now, there's a massive gap between AAA and the big leagues, and probably bigger than it's ever been, and I don't know if you can quantify that, but I think if we all use our eyes and our common sense, we realize that AAA in 2025 with the current rules of the minor leagues of 160 players versus the rules when I was doing it in 2019, and we had 80 years of service time on the team with a Carlos Gonzalez and a Deanna Navarro and a Cameron Maben and a Ryan Flaherty, right? Like, that was a different AAA than what it is now, because you can only have 160 players and you got to protect your prospects and you got to protect your minor league players. So more than likely it creates a little bit bigger gap with the big leagues. So when these guys do get here, it's going to take a little bit of time, and there's going to need to be some opportunity. There's going to need to be some patience, and I think if you can do that at some point, you're going to get some contribution from the fellas.
Has Mayo looked more comfortable at first base too?
Yeah, we've seen him a couple games. Yeah, I don't think there's been much action. Looking him at on the bag has been fine. His stuff at first base before the game looks great. He's whatever we end up with him, wherever he's at, if he continues to work hard, he'll make himself a solid player.